Welcome to the Ellis Talker Show. I appreciate y'all tuning in. Today I have very special guests, Mark and Amber Archer. Excuse me. How you guys doing today? So much for coming. I was really looking forward to this. So, Mark and Amber Archer, the reason why I have them on is to talk about the Mind Polluters. This is a film that they made come to fruition. They financed it, put it together, and it was they put their labor of love into this movie. And one of our local group, Respect Midlothian, is going to have that on a showing, and I'll talk more about that later. But thank you so much for coming on. Can you guys tell me a little bit about yourselves?
Sure.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, we started a nonprofit filmmaking ministry back in 2017. And at first it started off, we were just telling people stories of coming to faith in Christ. And then we slowly felt the Lord calling us into feature-length films. And we did our first documentary, Inwood Drive, about an abortion doctor here in Indiana. And went through and did that movie. The abortionist died actually after we were completed with that project and about ready to release. And they found 2,411 fetal remains in his car and home. So we went back into production with that and added that to the story. You can find that on our website at fearlessfeatures.org. And now, so we're a Christ-centered filmmaking ministry and just sharing movies and making movies about the issues impacting our society and culture from a biblical perspective, really trying to get people educated, motivated, and inspired to get involved in their local communities. And so we, right after the Inwood Drive film documentary, we were praying and asking the Lord, next steps and directions. And that led to the Mind Polluters, all about the graphic sex ed and social emotional learning in the public schools.
That's been a big topic as of late.
Yes.
The CRT and then SEL, the what I like to call them the cousins mm-hmm. of CRT. And so social emotional learning and stuff like that has become very, it's very ingrained. So mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Let me go ahead. I want to go ahead and play a trailer for this film because I want everybody to see that. You guys did a good job on that trailer, by the way.
Oh, thanks.
It sounds like your faith is very important to you. Mm-hmm. Your faith in Jesus Christ. Has this moved you? What brought you to this? As I go ahead and try to get the screen on, I'd love for you to tell me.
To doing this film in particular?
Yeah, this film and the work that you do. I mean, there's much more to even.
Yeah. Well, it goes back. Amber got kind of drafted into this when we got married. I've been in production since I was in my teens, and I did a lot of projects, got into the whole independent film world in my early 20s, late teens, early 20s, and had a lot of commercial success with that, but it was not something that was... a lot of the work that I was doing really wasn't pleasing to the Lord. And I was really the prodigal son. I was running from what I knew the Lord wanted me to be doing. And so I spent all of my time doing what Mark wanted to do. And right after we got married, I kind of had a burnout factor. And I realized that everything I was doing really didn't make the world a better place. And I just was really unfulfilled. So I actually quit filmmaking for 3.5 years, and then the Lord called me back to it, and we started very quickly with Fearless Features, and we knew that I knew that if I was going to come back to it, that it was going to be 100% for the Lord. And we were united in that. And so it was actually an episode of Glenn Beck that we were watching on called Global Grooming, where he interviewed Rebecca Friedrichs. And that got us talking about this subject matter and really led us into investigating this. And the Mind Polluters is the end result.
Sexual predators and comprehensive sex education both break down inhibitions. That's what they start with. They also gain trust with the child and then slowly start to get them towards sexual activity.
Anything goes. You are teaching children adult child sex. You're teaching transgender issues. And, children are moldable and influenced by that.
They said, okay, now we need you and your team to be able to explain what homosexuality is to a 4-year-old student.
To introduce this kind of material at that age, frankly, it's child abuse.
You're going to teach our children that it's okay for any two children of any age, of any sex, to have sexual intercourse with each other as long as two components are present. One's using a condom and they both give consent. Did I hear that correctly?
It's not a neutral venue. There's no such thing. Okay, the schools are doing your job. They are discipling your children, but they're not discipling them in the faith of Jesus Christ.
It's only the exceptional child that even survives that system. Most do not survive. Most have not survived.
They believe that children are sexual from birth and that they deserve and have the right to be sexually active and to seek sexual pleasure. And if anyone is stopping them from that, then you are judging and oppressing them.
Even kindergarten now, they're wanting to teach them more and more perverse information and acts and put that into the children's minds. And once that poison is in a child's mind, it doesn't leave. They'll always remember what they learned. And it's by design, it's orchestrated.
In my humble opinion, it will be worse before it gets better.
Wow. A lot to unpack there.
Yeah.
I was, that's kind of what got me saying, hey, I want to interview these people. So, tell me about that film. What led to the film? And then I'm going to go ahead and ask you about some of the things that were said on that video and kind of get your what you think about it, your thoughts on it.
So when we finished our first film, Inwood Drive, we both knew we had talked about, well, what are we going to do next? Mm-hmm. And we didn't know for sure, but we both knew that it needed to deal with the issue of pornography. And so, like I said, before we showed the trailer, we were watching Glenn Beck one night, and he did an episode with Rebecca Friedrichs called Global Grooming. And we both sat there in shock, like a lot of people. And we were like most people that go to see this film. We were parents that we knew that there were bad things being taught in the public schools. We had no idea how bad. And when we started looking into this and really started doing the research, we were just shocked. And so the film really is a film by parents for parents. So, we are
by the people for the people.
Yeah, we're just revealing to other parents like us what we found, and the Lord's given us the tools and resources to put it in a movie form. And so that's what led to it, really, just a passion for it.
Wow, that is quite a story. I think that there's a lot of people waking up to this. They're understanding that there's something going on in the schools, and we haven't been paying attention because, we pay our taxes and expect, that they're going to teach our kids a certain thing, math, science, whatever. And we're supposed to teach the morals. When it comes to the morals, we got to make them good citizens, good people, grounded, and with us personally, that involves Jesus Christ. Other people, it can involve whatever, but parents are the ones who teach their kids those things. And while there's a lot of communities in the United States that don't have a lot of kids don't have family, or their family they're in rough socioeconomic statuses.
Yeah.
It still belongs to the parent, not to the government. But that's me just prognosticating, or just let me get off this box real quick. So you said that they on the trailer it says that they're over sexualizing our kids, and they mentioned something about the 4th grade or 5th grade. Can you tell me more about that?
Oh, it goes back even younger than that. I mean, now even preschool, if you look at what the government is really pushing, parents can look up national sex ed standards. And really that's the Biden administration and those who have designed the national sex ed standards are really pushing that to go into all 50 states. And you're going to be horrified at what you find when you start digging into what's really happening. So it's intertwined and weaved into every subject in ways that you wouldn't even think of. And so kids are being exposed to this stuff. And 43 of the 50 states have obscenity exemptions. Obscenity meaning they can distribute material harmful to minors in schools and public libraries, and there's a defense for that. But if you go 500 feet outside of that, then it's a felony. And
it goes all the way back into the late 40s. A man by the name of Alfred Kinsey, and he is known as the father of the sexual revolution. He wrote 2 books, Sexual Behavior in the Human Male, Sexual Behavior in the Human Female, which became the basis for all of the claims that are made now by these graphic sex ed advocates,
like Planned Parenthood, advocates for youth.
Yeah, and they say, well, we know from science that children are sexual from birth, and we talk about what that means and where that comes from. It comes from Alfred Kinsey, who really coined that phrase. The problem, of course, is when you know who Alfred Kinsey was. He was a homosexual, he was bisexual, he was a pedophile and sadomasochist, and he was also a professor at Indiana University. And so he was very well funded by the Rockefeller Foundation and wrote these books. And basically, as one of the cast members of the film, Craig Sawyer, who runs Veterans for Child Rescue, and he put it very well. He says basically he made it say what he wanted it to say. So he cooked the books, and because he was so well funded, his books were pushed very rapidly into the scientific community and into the public space, and really with a massive propaganda campaign backed by the Rockefeller Foundation.
And others.
So you fast forward the question of when did all of this stuff really start to come full court press into the schools? You go back to about 2 years into the Obama administration. Around 2009, 2010 was when the Obama Department of Education and DOJ, Department of Justice, implemented this radical sex ed, radical transgender, everything into the public schools, and threatened to withhold federal funds from schools if they didn't implement it. And so we don't talk about that in the film. Right. This is research for the next one. Right. But this is where the full court press really started. So a lot of people that when they're hesitant to see the film, in fact, people that are in the film, legislators, for example, that you would, when we were listening to testimonies happen in these legislative sessions, and I'd hear legislators that are maybe in their 30s, late 30s, early 40s say, well, I went to school and we had sex ed and there wasn't anything wrong with it. And you realize if you graduated school within about the past 5 to 10 years, you probably, it's only within about the past 10 years that this has really started to show up. So If it's been longer than that since you were in school, then you don't understand.
Right.
This really is new. It's been kind of under the surface.
It's not the same as when you were in school.
Right. It's not what you had. This is pornography in the schools.
Yeah. That's actually, I'm glad you're addressing that, because when you talk about these things, a lot of people come on and say just what you said about, well, I had sex ed. A matter of fact, I remember kind of thinking that, well, I had sex ed, but it was sex ed was more like a basic biology class, not a social function kind of thing. They weren't trying to, or at least I didn't see that at that point, but now I realize it, and now I see it. And for instance, I mean, you have ABC News has a article on there where mother claims in the article that the teachers manipulated the child to change gender identity, and mother claims the teacher secretly manipulated her 11-year-old daughter into changing her gender identity and name, has filed a legal case against the tiny school district.
Yes.
That is nuts. When you're an adult and you're conscious and you understand things and you have the ability to critically think your decision, then whatever, I hope you wouldn't, but that, as an adult legally, you can make those choices. But an 11-year-old, I mean,
yeah, and that is more and more common. In fact, we talk a little bit about that in the Mind Polluters. One of our cast members is Mary McAllister, who runs. She's a litigation attorney with Child and Parental Rights Campaign, and she talks in the film about how the schools do this, and that schools across the nation now have actual policies in place that teachers are not to talk to parents about these things, that if they identify a child who is struggling, the school's policy is to push them rapidly into this transsexual nonsense and not to tell the parents. In fact, they have policies to purposely conceal it from parents. And they work cases all the time where the schools are actively working against the parents. And when the parents object to what the schools are trying to indoctrinate their kids with, that, I know your name's John, but you really should be Julie. And when the parents find out, it could have been going on now for months, and the parents have no idea because the schools are that devious now, and to the point where the schools will actually report the parents for child abuse because they don't support the child, and it is staggering what's happening right now. Is it every school? No. But it is policy in the majority of public schools now, and parents need to know that.
Yeah, if they're getting the education funding from the DOE, or what is it, the Department of Education.
Yeah, federal funds.
Those federal funds have a lot of strings that people don't know about.
Yep.
A lot. So when the school district says, "Oh, we received, $20 million from the federal government," there was a lot of things that school had to commit to get that money. We saw that with COVID. They had to commit to trying to do safety, masks, whatever, and address social and emotional learning. Somehow that got you want to address that, right?
Yeah.
So
and the thing too is, parents, to back on the argument of, well, I had sex ed. Yeah, we all had sex ed, but your kids are getting porn ed. That's the difference. You and I were taught anatomy and function, as a biology class. What the kids are getting now, as young as 4 years old, they're getting pornographic movies. They're getting pornographic cartoons that are completely inappropriate, graphic. Sky's the limit. They are not afraid at all to teach your kids everything and anything. And it is not sex ed like we had.
And that is, yeah, that I got no words for that. They had a book recently that we found, or not we, but I think the ladies at Respect Midlothian or somebody, a community member, found a book at the district that was, the pictures were posted everywhere. And I mean, this was a cartoon book of, performing sexual acts. I mean, I'm trying to keep it clean, but
sounds like it's perfectly normal.
Yeah, I'm a sailor. I've been around the world, and the whole thing about curse like a sailor, and not much can make me blush. But I saw the excerpts in this book, and I was like, what? And then the other thing that's concerning is like that the gentleman you listed that started all this.
Alfred
Kinsey, there was the whole pedophilia thing. You're starting to get professors on the Ivy League level and stuff question whether it's really wrong between an adult to have sexual relations with a child. And this was, it's just been a few that have hit the actual media, but there's more. And there's scientific papers that they're making on it. And that's...
And you have to, and look at California, where they've enacted the law where it's, now it's 10 years difference. So, if you've got two consenting people, within a 10-year range, it's no longer a crime. So if you're 21 and you've got an 11-year-old and the 11-year-old says it was consensual sex, well, now it's not a crime.
Now, what I would like for you to do as we kind of close out is kind of tell parents how they can get involved, tell them some of the things that they can look for to see if their children are being exposed to this.
I think number one, definitely getting connected with your local organizations who are fighting this. It really takes everybody working together, and it's definitely local grassroots who make the most difference. We have worked in nonprofit for a very long time, and we see the most change happens. It's usually not the federal government and the presidency and, anything else. It's your local communities who are going to make the biggest impact and difference right where you are. So Respect Midlothian, who's hosting the event, it's a great place to start for parents who aren't alreadyconnected. We have other we have 5 actual organizations who are helping partner and distribute this film right now. It's Audrey Werner at Matthew 18 Group, Vicki Little at Dallas Eagle Forum, Alice Linehan, Women on the Wall, Monica Klein, It Takes a Family, and
Debbie Simmons.
Debbie Simmons. There's one more. Who am I forgetting?
I love it.
We all respect Midlothian.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I would add to that, at the local level, at the grassroots level, is where the accountability happens.
Jamie Haynes.
Oh, Jamie Haynes.
She's North Texas.
That's right.
Yeah.
So that's why, and when you watch the film, you'll see that we don't give specific answers necessarily on, here's what you should do. This step 1, step 2, because we wanted the grassroots groups to be able to use it. And then when it's done and when you see the film at the end, you're in shock. And and everyone's sitting there going, okay, now what do we do? Mm-hmm. And that's why we wanted grassroots organizations to be our screening partners for the first few months so that they can get people engaged, because what you need to do in Midlothian is maybe different from what you're going to do in Houston, or in Atlanta or in Indiana where we're at, because you're at different stages of this and the people that you have to interact with are different. So it's important to get engaged.
Well, yeah. So you guys don't get into those real details, but you definitely show the problem so that people can see, what's going on there, and that's pretty cool. And like you guys said, Miss or the Respect Midlothian is going to be having a showing, and I'm gonna post a flyer on that, and hopefully hopefully you guys will go out and see this film and kind of understand what it is that Mark and Amber have stumbled on and what they've learned, and make your own decision about how you want to proceed. Maybe this ends up being a call to action, and that's great. So
Yeah.
I appreciate you guys coming on. I know you guys are busy. We've been, kind of playing tag a little bit, and I know you guys it's a madhouse right now. So I appreciate you coming on and talking about this. This is a really cool subject. This is, it's not good what's happening, but it's a subject that needs to be talked about. That's why I say it's a cool subject. It needs to be talked about. So,
and it takes all of us. What you're doing matters so much. So thank you so much for having us on and what you're doing for your community.
I appreciate that. Well, I'm going to go ahead and close out, but I went and put your website on there, www.fearlessfeatures.org. I believe that you guys should take a look at it and see more of what Mark and Amber are doing. I'm sorry. I'm just having, it must be Saturday. I don't know. I'm getting tongue tied. It's just crazy. So
I've been called worse.
Yeah. I won't confess to anything. My wife watches these. Well, y'all take care, and I appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you to your listening audience.
Thanks for having us on.